Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, the most important hour of your day and week. I'm Michael, the MC and Opportunity Ambassador, and today's show is Defeat Trickery with Street Smarts. Today with me are my favorite co-host, Agnieszka, the psychosomatic illuminator. Say
Welcome.
hello.
Thank you. I was just shocked that you said my name so well. I'm sorry, I couldn't get over that. Finally, you're
Now,
back.
I've got to dedicate like a half hour each day to like practicing your name for some
You know,
reason.
I was
But
listening to other episodes and you never used to say it wrong.
okay,
For
well, I
a
don't
long
know what's
time.
going on there, but our other
It's only been this.
special co-host is Dennis, the Freedom Facilitator.
Greetings and blessed love, everybody.
So to begin off with, we're talking about the problem that a lot of people are facing these days, and that is that there's a lot of trickery out there in the world. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of fallacies just floating around all over the place. If you look at a commercial, TV commercial, you're probably going to see about 4 to 5 logical fallacies within a matter of 20 or 30 seconds. So we've got a lot of lies floating around, and a lot of people are having difficulty realizing what's the truth and what's the lies. And when it comes to politics or religion or just about any topic that goes on in the world these days, unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion about what is truth and what isn't. But let's talk about the problem of trickery. What's going on out there?
Well, what's going on out there? Trickery is a big thing in capoeira, which is a background that I have, as you know, and there it's actually being used sometimes in a playful way, but it could be serious as well. It is a game, but it's a martial art as well. So trickery is used there on many levels. On a physical level, but then also like on a mental level. You can play mind games. Emotions are being used. So pretty much all the resources that we have within our human capabilities are and can potentially be used to trick the opponent or the other player, your friend that you're playing with, that you engage with in the capoeira circle, to trick him or her, to believe that you are something that you are not, or that you're not something that you actually are. So trickery really is a part of the art there. There's a cunningness to it. There can be maliciousness, added to it, and I think this is really one of the aspects that through which capoeira prepares us for life, because I see that and I've experienced that out in the streets, and the name of the show is Defeat Trickery with Street Smarts. And then so we say street smarts, and there's also street trickery. So I can see trickery, going to the market, being overcharged, for example, or dealing with street vendors, like on a very like on a street level. I can see and I have experienced quite a bit of trickery, and and there's different levels of it. So that would be like a simple street level, but then of course there's trickery on high levels as well, on high ends. And yeah, and I remember this song, this phrase that Bob Marley coined. I mentioned it, was it on Monday? We're not here to fight the flesh and blood, but to fight spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So that came to my mind on Monday when we introduced the theme. And so you have this kind of wickedness, this trickery, like on a street level, and you have it on high levels as well. And if you look at the system or systems that run or want to run our lives, then that I would consider that to be a much higher level of trickery that's being played upon us on a daily basis.
Agnieszka, how do you see the problem out there?
So I was just looking something up on my phone here while Dennis was talking, because it's the energy of the trickster, right? So seems to be very, very prevalent in our society. And I don't know, I think this is probably like a cyclical thing. Like sometimes the energy of the benevolent supporter is more prevalent, and sometimes the energy of the trickster. So the energy of the trickster, and this is like super basic from Wikipedia. I just wanted to see like a framework. was the trickster is a character in a story, or a god, or a goddess, or a spirit who exhibits a great degree of intellect and secret knowledge and uses it to play tricks or otherwise disobey normal rules, whatever those are, and defy conventional behavior. So it really depends how we look at it. Is conventional behavior what's happening now in the world? Or is conventional behavior the traditional, the human way? Like what Lee says in his podcast, come back to your human family. Is there weird feedback? I'm going to put my headphones on.
There is some kind of like
Some people
resonating
are
thing
gone,
hitting on there.
definitely.
That's an interesting aspect though that you bring in here, because it doesn't, you know, necessarily mean, when I was speaking like a while ago, like this rather negative connotation to it, right? Trickery, being tricked as being something, you know, bad or something negative. But I think what you're highlighting there is that, you know, maybe we don't even always have to label it, because like if the tricking means that you're going beyond the established rules of the game, then, you know, who said that the rules of the game were the right ones and were proper and were just in the first place? So if the game itself, that the game that's being played actually, you know, is not a game that uh, I don't know, that is being played by rules that favor everyone, or that give everyone, you know, a chance, then maybe tricking in the game, or playing tricks within the game in order to get a chance as well, is actually not something that we would label negative, but it's something to overcome an established status quo that is meant to be overcome at a certain stage. Just as you
So when
said,
it's
cyclical. You know, there's cycles going on. So, you know, there's an order, and then that order is being disrupted in order to, you know, be reestablished at a different level.
Go ahead, Agnieszka.
well, so I was wondering, like that Loki energy, if it's not all bad, if it's really like showing us what's like, because a lot of the time, like emotions, for example, right? If I'm feeling angry or sad or upset, that's more, it's not so much like me being angry, but it's a signpost. It's showing me what I want more in life and what I don't want in life and how I want to shift my life to get what I want, right? These are just sort of like directional markers in the river of life. And so maybe the Loki energy is again that directional marker. Like, how are you going to deal with it? You're tricked. You've been tricked. What are you going to do? Are you going to stand out? Are you going to stand there? Or are you going to lay down and cry?
Well, but when it comes to emotions, that those can be tricks as well, because people can be seeing things and being tricked into being angry about things that aren't necessarily something to be angry about, and they can be happy about things that shouldn't be, you know, like the winning of the war, and people are celebrating, you know, what really is a trickery of people to like destroy other people's stuff and rape and pillage other people's you know, environments, is not something to be celebrated. But we see a lot of people celebrating whenever there's you know, war declared or wars completed, or you know, these kind of things. So there are emotions that are responses to negative consequences that potentially are misplaced.
The difficulty
What do
with,
you
sorry,
what are your thoughts about that?
I,
Go ahead, Dennis.
thanks. The one of the like digging a little deeper in one of the sources that I see with you know, with of the problem of trickery is, it becomes a problem only or mostly if you're not aware of it. So if you're in the game and you don't know that tricking or trickery is part of that game, you're not aware of that, then you're pretty much on the losing end. Then you're gonna end up being the one who is at the mercy of the one or the ones that know how to trick and how to trick you. So I feel that awareness of the rules that are being played, or the absence of the rules, you know, or the possibility that there's others out there who are not, playing with the rules that or that you might have experienced or might have been exposed to or might have been raised to believe that there are, and that everybody is going after those rules. So to know and to be aware that there's groups, there's entities, there's individuals out there in the street and out there on other levels as well that actually are purposefully not playing by the rules and are trying to trick and to get passed by you and others by tricking. That I think is an essential part of it.
So how do you defend yourself
Well,
from trickery?
we're talking about the problems now.
Yeah, and the source.
I don't want
where it
to
comes
go
from.
into the solutions until we talk about the problem in depth.
Right. Hold tight for the solution, listeners. Hold
Yes.
tight.
So in regard to like being tricked emotionally, how do you feel about that, Agnieszka?
Well, I mean, what does it mean being tricked emotionally? Like being
Well, like triggered, for
planted
example,
in-
like when Democrats hear some Republicans say something about capitalism, they're immediately triggered into, well, that's just,
But is
falling
being
victim to the
tricked-
bankers or something like that. And those
Is being
bastard
tricked the same
capitalists.
as being triggered, though? Because I'm not really sure if being tricked and being triggered is the same thing. Being triggered is an internal game. Being tricked is an external game. Somebody's doing something on purpose when you're tricked. But when you're
But that's
triggered, you're reacting to something that doesn't necessarily require a reaction.
Well, if
Or maybe a lack of it.
the one who's triggering you knew or knows that you are potentially or very likely or surely going to be triggered by ABC, and he's doing ABC in order to get that reaction from you, then I think that's what Mike is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, it's still trickery. It's the same thing. It's trying to manipulate the situation. But see, and manipulation, just like a knife or any other tool, has two sides, right? You can manipulate for good or you can manipulate for evil. You can educate a child or you can teach them to be a killer. You know what I mean? There are so many ways of creating stuff. Manipulating means to create with your hands too.
Well, so when it comes to the current environment, the people out there are suffering, and they're suffering because they can't tell the difference between what's true and what's false in many cases, right? And because of that, they're suffering in many ways. A lot of people are dying because they're not introduced to the correct way to treat a medical issue, for example. They're not being taught that, like in a lot of cases, it could just be their behavior that leads to a lot of the problems that they're facing, as opposed to taking a pill or listening to an expert that doesn't actually know what he's talking about. So in a lot of cases, people are experiencing that kind of thing. When it comes to like buying a house, for example, that house is probably 100 times more expensive than it could have been if they would have realized that there's other ways that houses could be built. But it's the government that's creating that circumstance, and they're basically telling you, well, this is the way that a house needs to be built. And of course, that means it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there could be another way that costs $5,000, and they could still have a home. But because they can't do it that way,
but it
they've got
wouldn't
to
be
do
up
it
to
this way.
code, Michael. It wouldn't be up to code.
Well, but
what's
there again
code,
is
right?
they
But
don't know
what's code?
what exactly. They're saying it's about safety, but this is the same scam that's going on in a lot of different areas.
What's interesting, because they don't have these kind of things here, or maybe they do, but not on the same scale. But going to these rickety little restaurants with like corrugated metal for a roof and cement pillars, and it's definitely not built up to code, but it's awesome. I like it.
You
Right.
see,
So
you
there's
ask,
some fundamentals things that in regard to safety that can be identified, and then there's other things that aren't necessary but are just part of the rules. Go ahead, Dennis.
you ask about being tricked on an emotional level a few minutes back, and when I bounce that back with my personal experience, I can see totally, oh yeah. And of course, looking at things holistically again, I can see how our physicality, how our body is and can be used to trick, to pretend to be something that you are not. Even the way you dress, the way you appear, your physical appearance, you can dress up as somebody that you are not, or you want to pretend to be this and that. So that is, already a form of, introducing a trick or playing tricks, can be potentially on the emotional level as well. We can use emotions to trick others into different states, for example. And I've seen that being applied like masterfully in different parts of the world. And it's amazing, to see that, and to see the game that some people have, and the abilities that some people have. And I found it to be, yeah, astounding. Like, even how, sometimes the intellectual level, which is just another one, you can use your intellect also to trick others, and to overwhelm their intellect, so to say. And it is amazing to see how sometimes, the mind is watching, and the mind perceives to some degree that, hold on, there's something wrong. Or your gut is telling you, hold on, there's something wrong, but your feelings are, oh wow, this is nice. And you can flatter someone, or you can then use your words to hurt. So there's tricks being played on all levels of our being. I would say, and again, to know, if you cut to the source, the problem is that it can unbalance you. So I see the problem that it can create disharmony, and out of that disharmony, um, if you're not seated and centered, somewhere beyond that disharmony that the being tricked can cause in you, then that can throw you over. That can rock your boat to a degree that you feel, your boat is going to sink. And on the other hand, if you're seated in a strong place and have a strong foundation, you can actually see and you can witness, oh wow, I'm being hijacked here emotionally. I'm being hijacked, by the, I don't know, by the appearance, of somebody, or by the game that the guy in front of me is putting on. And you can even witness yourself being tricked to a certain degree. But then you can also say, okay, you can step back and kind of detach from that, and see that it can't really reach your source. And I think like, living is learning also, um, to identify when tricks are being played and what kind of tricks are being played, and to learn to play the game well doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play tricks, but I would say that at least you should be aware that tricks are being played, so you can be prepared, and you can handle it on all those levels.
Agnieszka, what's your thoughts in regard to the source of the problem?
I think that it's when trickery is played on you, sometimes you can be caught unawares, right? It's on some level, you always know that something that you're being played, right? Or you always know that something is not right, right? But when you're presented with it, you can second guess even who you are. Oh, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe this is really true, and maybe I was wrong all along. You get that doubt, right? So I think that in that situation, in that moment, it's really good to have a group of people that you trust, that have the same ideology, maybe the same, research abilities or whatever, that can show you, okay, well, they said this, you're not sure, let's check, let's figure it out. You know what I mean? And actually
You're
use
creeping into
empirical
the
evidence.
solution. What is the source? What is the source of the problem?
Well, go ahead, Dennis.
I
Obviously,
just,
obviously, you want to say something.
I just had this picture in my mind. It's like how can I draw a picture of what I was just talking about that sounded probably so difficult and so far off. And I was like picturing me standing somewhere in the street, and somebody's going, oh wow, wow, look over there, look this beautiful girl over there, or whatever it is. And they're looking that way, and the guy at the same time, or his friend, taking out the wallet out to the back of my back pocket, basically. So he tricked me into looking this way and putting my attention over there, while at the same time, whoop, he used it against me. And what I was trying to convey is, you remember this moment like when you have been tricked, um, and then you realize it's like you realize, oh wow, this was so clever. Like sometimes it takes a few seconds to realize, oh wow, this guy and that guy, they were working together, and like, oh wow. And then there's like, although like I lost, a bunch of money or whatever, it's like, oh, they got me. And it's like I got tricked. And so this, being, there's this like, like they got past me, they got me this time. So there's a sense of it, it's bad and so, but it's also, I wasn't aware. So I was kind of, I opened up myself, I was open, and the guy overcame my guard, or my guard wasn't even up, because he lured me into that. And I feel that this is really, it's a recognition that it's, there's a game being played. And when I say to be rooted somewhere, and to be aware of a part of you that is not being shaken by that, is that moment. It's like, you must have smiled, or you must even laugh, and you can see, you're still hurting because you lose your money, but you realize that, well, it's just the money, and it's not all of that, and life is going to go on. I think that's what I was hinting on earlier.
All right, you touched on something that is definitely a source, and that is the incentive. So a guy that distracts you so that he can take your wallet is essentially incentivized because it works. They distract you, they get your wallet, they get paid, life goes on. So number one, I think, as far as a source of the problem, is that the trickery works for a lot of people. And, because trickery works, people, people continue to be tricked.
But another aspect of the source is also, the belief or the notion that you have to work trickery in order to get where you want to go. Is that even
Yeah.
necessary? Isn't that like an absence of, hmm, trust? Maybe I put it out as a question. Or, in that, things will be provided, and there is a way, and there's actually an angle of getting at where you want to go, and of reaching it without playing the game, in at that level.
Yeah, well, I think, when it comes to like lying, when it comes to paying your taxes, that's pretty much a standard. And so, like, creating the circumstance where you know, compromise your morals to get a better tax return, that's essentially one of the kind of the ways that they're teaching people to be, you know, tricked to some degree, to lie, to compromise their own integrity, and then essentially doubt themselves too. So like it's okay to be tricked. It's okay to be tricking. But I do think there's something deeper here. But Agnieszka, do you have anything as far as the
So
source?
the example that I was thinking of was when somebody was mad at me and they were trying to tell me what I'm like, and I fell for it. I was like, yeah, maybe I am like that. Maybe that is my problem, right? But then I could feel like my mind sort of dividing into two, and I could feel this person's words like, you're like this, and me going, no, I'm like this. And there was a conflict. So what I did in that situation is I found my support network, right? I was like, okay, where's the truth here? I'm confused. This person said something to me, and I don't know what the truth is anymore. I don't know. Am I like this or am I like that? Do you see this or do you see that? And through guiding and questions and appreciative inquiry and using specific coaching tools, they got me to where I could see the truth of who I was and what was the truth, right? So this is using my support network and seeing, okay, where is the reality of things, right? And so then going back and looking at the person who said that, like, okay, so this person said this, but it wasn't true. And I just checked and it wasn't true. Why would they do that? Why would they say that to me? Why would they, like, I was already having a bad day. Why would they say this thing that was making it even worse? And I think that this is the kind of thing that, again, we're taught in childhood. I mean, it's stealing energy essentially, right? Somebody's feeling good, having a good day, or somebody's feeling bad, having a bad day. And you go in and you like, take, or not you, but like this, some people go in and take more and say things that are designed to weaken, not designed to strengthen. Why do they do that? Because they grew up in a family where their family was doing that to them. That's what they were imprinted with. saying things to others that are designed to weaken, seeing somebody in a weak position and weakening them even more. It's that inner bullying
I think that would speak
source.
to the idea of and this is what I think is one of the big sources, is the nature of mankind and a false belief that it's survival of the fittest.
Hmm. Because it's
Uh,
not.
I think if you look at all the literature, I mean, especially the great books, as we are well aware, Agnieszka and myself are in the Great Books Club, but I think there's, that I think Darwin is kind of the guy that really embodies the idea of survival of the fittest. But the reality is that there were alternative theories, and it just so happened that Darwin was the guy that was well connected, that brought about this idea that survival of the fittest is how humans exist. But the reality is it isn't that way. It's actually collaboration and adaptability. But the fact that most people feel like it's survival of the fittest, it's a dog eat dog world. And if you don't attack, somebody else is going to attack you. That kind of
You know who
mentality.
taught me? You know who taught me that that wasn't true? My parrot. When I had a parrot, because she used to make this huge mess every time she would eat seeds. A quarter of the seeds would be on the floor all around. And I looked it up. I was like, why parrots do that? It's just such a stupid thing. And apparently parrots do that to feed all the other bugs and stuff. When they eat like from a fruit or whatever, they pull out some of the seeds and throw them around so other things can eat them. It's collaboration because they have the strong beak to open the fruit, you know?
Can we play each other tricks without doing harm? So the result of the trick would actually not be something truly harmful for the other, for the one being tricked, but it might even be, a lesson. You know, just like it's not the wallet that's gone, but something else. I keep on thinking about capoeira. I'm not sure if I want to apply this analogy so often because I probably get like boring. But in the harder, I can play a trick on somebody whom, for example, in a direct confrontation, I wouldn't have a chance. But I can use, other resources in order to play a trick and in order to get a point or win the game, and that could be something. Wow, if I do it well, everybody's like, wow, everybody will cheer, and it's like it's something that that is even entertaining, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the other one will have to get hurt or so. But I can make my point, or I can make my statement, or I can win in a way without doing something truly harmful. But maybe you could argue that the character, the pride, or so will get scratched, but not something thieving money or hurting somebody. So is tricking then potentially something you know that we don't only consider as something negative? That's the question.
Well, and I think that's part of the solution, is really taking a much broader awareness of what is actually going on and being able to discern what's actually happening. Uh, because there is the occasion, and Dennis, you and I have talked about this, and I've had a conversation with Damien about his kind of inclination to logic, and pursuing logic was because of his introduction to the way that the Chinese culture conducts themselves, and in what Western people and people that are politically correct and kind of that the PC world considers trickery is really something else entirely. It's called cunningness, and really the ability to get people to admit to a weakness and then just use that to your advantage. So, like in a lot of cases, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit with your experience in Jamaica and Brazil, Dennis, but the culture that Westerners come from is not the same that a predominant amount of the population in the rest of the world is aware, is kind of privy to, which is a much tougher kind of mindset,
Yeah,
I
like
guess, in some respects.
so those were those have been some tough lessons for myself, but those also have been the joy of like a tremendous source of joy of life and of growth as well. But finding out the way how I was uh, how my upbringing and education and the influence of the culture that I was born into and that I grew up into, um, actually shaped me and shaped my way of thinking, and my personality certainly also to a degree. That was totally challenged, living in a different culture, living in a on the other side of the world, so to say. And I love Brazilian culture and Jamaican culture, to my heart, and it took me years to to adapt, or to even to get what was going on. And for me it was tremendously difficult, sometimes, to understand, like, how things were not being done and said, like, straight. Like, if I don't like you, I want this, I want that, and like, I was raised to say it straight, and it is how it is, and it is how I say it, and that's it. But then if people came across and they would, use trickery, and use, emotions, and use gestures, to convey something, or to make me do something, or to manipulate me to stop, or to buy, or to look, or whatever it was, then I would quickly find out that I was not equipped at all, for that kind of level of for that kind of game. And I've never been taught, even about the existence of that game. And that was really interesting, and I reflect about that a lot today, thinking of the broader games that are being played, and also looking at, how populations react to it, and how aware people in different places are of what's being played, on an individual level, but also on the collective level. And that's super interesting.
So like somebody that's and this is what we're talking about is really, I think, the concept of street smarts. But let's say you're on your bicycle and you get a flat tire on your bicycle. So you're pushing your bicycle and someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, I see you got a flat tire. I tell you what, I'm a tire repairman guy, but I've got a shop on the other side. I tell you what, if you give me $5, I'll run over and get I'll take your back tire and run over the next street and fix it, and I'll be back in like 10 minutes." And the person says, "Oh, really? Thanks." Gives them $5 or $10 or whatever he asked for. And now the guy has stolen his back tire and taken $10 from him
That's not
because
always
they
true. That
trusted him.
happened to me, and it was true. So I was having a really bad day at work, like a really busy day at work. I was young. I was working at like retail, the food place, ice cream shop. And I was really hungry, and one of my or not one of my regular, like a stranger, a customer, was like talking to me, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry," and I haven't eaten since the morning. And he's like, "Give me $10, and I'll come back with food for you." And so I gave him $10, and he wasn't back for like 20 minutes. I was like, I lost $10. But then you know what? He showed up with exactly what I wanted, and it was awesome.
Okay, but the idea though is that in a lot of cases that's considered cunning, because essentially they're creating the circumstance where the person that's the
In
victim,
trouble.
the person is volunteering to be the victim, that
and
they're contributing through their lack of understanding
and I think,
what's to the situation that incentivizes
I don't
the
know. It's
criminal.
like a 50-50, because that could be like an actual person wanting to help you. That's what I'm saying. Like, you
Right,
can't say that every
well,
time somebody does
but
that,
we're not
it's a
talking
trick.
about the good guys. We're talking about the
All right.
bad guys and incentivizing them to do the wrong thing.
and to
But
put
we're
So
numbers
also,
on it
like
is going to be
being
difficult.
street smart
Uh,
means that you can't play into the circumstances that allows the con man to win.
yeah, you have to use your judgment. You have to look around. You have to look at the guy and see if he's the kind of guy that would be able to fix your bike. I don't know. I don't want to encourage people not to trust each other, because that's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do here.
Well, but that's there again is what do you do in the circumstances that people aren't trustworthy? You can't just wait until the day that you need a tire to be wanting to know who the guy is that fixes the tire. You got to be able to know that who can you trust, not just the first person that comes along. You just trust them automatically, and then let you know let the chances go to the wind as far as has he been tricked or not. that's the problem with when it comes to street smarts, and why most people don't understand them is they don't know how to kind of build a network of people that they can trust, versus like just having no relationship with anybody until the day I need something, and then just trusting that the person that says they can help me is actually there to help me.
In a way, the trickster or the one that plays the trick is really exploiting a weak spot, a weakness, or an open guard, so to say, and is
Yeah.
exploiting and by that he's teaching you and he's showing you, oh, you were open right there. You were not able to distinguish between a honest, straight up guy and somebody who wants to trick you, or you were not open. You were not protected in that way. And when you just ask me that question, and you brought the bicycle example, I was just imagining. Well, I thought the first days or so, or weeks basically, I was exposed to that total foreign culture, and like walking around downtown and and learning lessons on a daily basis. I was like, wow, if that example would have come up, probably I might have given the $5 and then he would have driven off and I would have been standing there like maybe for an entire day. It's like, oh my god, I hope he's all right. I hope like nothing happened to him. It would have taken me a while probably to figure that out. But that was really a good example, because I could come up like with a bunch of other ones on that level, and there's experts on that, and I can laugh about it now, but in the moment, like and then you have you doubt yourself, and then the first reaction is really is to to get angry, and then I'm never, I don't know, I guess you said trust. I'm not gonna trust again. I'm not gonna never help anybody again. I won't give any money. I won't, and that's really an initial reaction, that I experienced myself. And then when you start to think about solutions, okay, what how can I, I'm gonna walk everywhere like with my guard up now. I'm gonna protect myself all the way. And you look at the insanity of the world today, which is which is putting people into fear and trying to tell them, oh, they have to be on guard. And what you do when you walk up, when you walk around every day like this and protecting, and everybody's like a potential robber and a potential trickster,
Triple
then
mask.
what you are essentially doing is you're separating yourself from everyone else. You're dividing. That's the
Yes.
divide and conquer. That's another quality of that. So
Yeah.
it's out of fear. It's fear-based acting and thinking, and it's putting up boundaries. And I did that in the beginning as a reaction, in order to protect myself, and I put on a screw face, and like I looked everybody in the eye from far, and like everybody, people were, ooh, they shied away, and then they waited until there was a distance, and then they would say something. But then I noticed that that would change my entire vibe, and that was not who I am, and that's not who I needed to be either. So from that, I developed more, I guess, successful and more harmonious strategies to overcome potential tricksters, for myself, but for everyone around as well, because those situations can be transformed, where you're actually out of a situation of potential, trust destruction. You can actually turn it around, and you can build trust. You can even make a friend that way.
Right. Exactly. And that's really the key, is like by understanding how to build trust, you can kind of create the circumstance where that situation does create the circumstance that you could build a friendship, even if the guy had ill intent towards you. If you kind of can play the same game and understand the circumstances that is actually going on, because when someone makes an offer and someone accepts an offer, there are things that have to take place. There has to be an exchange, and to some degree, they're like, if I'm going to give you value, what are you going to give me? Because if you're just running away with my money and my rear tire of my bicycle, what have you given me? Nothing. So if I don't trust you, if I have no reason to trust you, then you've got to give something to me that it acts as collateral until till we build a relationship that deserves kind of the circumstances that we talked about initially. That you give somebody something based on trust. Well, if you don't have trust, you can't give them something.
So it is really about to learn how to transform ill intent, whether it's out of perceived necessity, or whether it's out of badness, bad mind, people say in Jamaica. But it's to learn, it's to master, to transform that into something positive, into love. How can you transform whatever comes at you into something that is actually, oh wow, that is part of me. That's a teaching right there. Oh, thank you very much for this lesson. Okay, oh, you got my wallet, or oh, you got my $5. Oh, okay, all right. Like, how can you talk? How can you be? And I've seen it. Like, I've seen people that had the capacity to transform the intent of somebody coming up to them wanting to hurt them or potentially kill them into something that was like, oh wow, they had a nice chat and everybody went this way. So there's always, there's fear always, fear of the unknown, fear of the other, fear of, fear of whatever that is in the middle of that. So how can you despair that, and how can you overcome that and help, the perceived other to overcome that as well? And in that, and another aspect that I see is that, is trickery not also, can we not also see it as a way to help us overcome naivety, a certain naivety that we have in life? Because I feel, to be street smart, to be street wise, that means, say, you would have to have walked the streets, you would have to have experienced, and not only seen on TV, but you felt it on your skin what it means, this feeling
Right.
somebody got past.
Yeah. If the world was ready to take on the responsibility of what they actually have in regard to their own life, they would know that every time a car commercial came on that, like, lied to them, that, that would be suicide for the business. If we were in a world where people took on responsibility for themselves to know what trust really meant, because, like, if somebody is going to lie to you and you're going to believe them, and then you're going to let them fool you into doing something, who's to blame? That's our responsibility, and we've got to come to every offer with half the, we're coming with half of the exchange. And if we don't understand the value that, like, trust is, for example, we don't understand what that means, we don't understand what the truth and integrity means, then we don't necessarily understand, or, that's how we get tricked. And that's really the solution, is really to understand, to be street smart, to have that circumstance where someone takes you, someone tricks you, someone fools you into doing something, and then taking that example as a way to learn what's valuable,
You guys, it
and not
says
just
that
say
we're
that's the criminal, that's the bad guy. That isn't actually the case. They're not the bad guy, they're just cunning. They just fooled you, and you were the fool.
sorry, never mind. My screen said it was offline, but then it restored and it wasn't. My bad.
I feel a good approach of, working on solutions for those situations on all levels that we touched upon, the street level, um, losing your wallet, or to, really higher level of, you talked about commercials and governments and systems where you have to pay half of what you earn, and all those kind of things, um, is the question really, and that each and everyone has to ask him or herself that question, because we all have different, different walks of life, and we are at different points, of the planet, and also in our own lives and in our own development. So for
Yes.
you, what does it mean right here and right now to equip yourself holistically to deal with trickery on different levels? What does it mean physically? What does it mean emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually as well? What does it mean for you to be equipped and to be ready for that and to deal with that? Does it mean to ponder upon certain things? Does it mean to watch some videos of people getting tricked? Does it mean to study gestures? Does it mean to read? Does it mean to go out there, and experience that, and to, drop the fear, um, to expose yourself and learn in those real life situations that you can put yourself into more. There's so many different ways. Does it mean to step inside the hall, inside the capoeira circle and play? because you have to participate in the game in order to experience it. It's one thing to watch it passively, but it's a whole different level to, to learn by doing, and to experience it, and yeah, and it is it is something I feel that life really is inviting us to do. And one thing that I see a lot is, and that's again through fear, that people lose the confidence that they can actually deal and put up with a lot. And we really are equipped to, yeah, to go through a lot. And I've seen and witnessed it, myself, and experienced some of it myself, that things we might not believe we can actually go through, we actually can. And sometimes we have to go through certain things, and we have to make certain experiences ourselves in order then to incorporate them and to make them our own. Because it's different if you talk from experience, as if we talk about something that we read in a book or we saw on TV.
Yeah, I think much of the problems that are out there in the world are a reflection of our own inability to take responsibility for our own education and our own self. And in a lot of cases, when people are claiming to be victims, they're essentially just admitting to not having the responsibility to take care of themselves. And that is kind of the lesson of the streets, is you've got to be able to take care of yourself. But the beautiful thing is that it's not just taking care of yourself, it's also taking care of the relationships you have with other people. Because in a community of people, that's the smartest street smarts, is being able to have a community of people around you that are watching your back, that are taking care of you whenever anything goes wrong. And that's kind of building the network of people around you that make things happen so that you're well taken care of. And that's definitely one of the things that's awfully lacking in the modern world. Most people are isolated, and they're going down that path of being even more isolated, which means they're even more vulnerable to being victims, and falling into not understanding how to be responsible for themselves and how to learn their way out of uh, the problems that they're facing.
It is also an invitation, really, to get to know different games or different levels of the game that you might have been playing. So I can see it totally, like, being tricked, in some kind of level. Is that really an invitation for me to look, oh wow, how did that happen? Because, like, oh, I got tricked. Okay, I recognized it, so there's some kind of realization, some kind of awareness there already. So how did they do that, with this commercial, or this guy with a bike is like, and like, oh, and where I come from, I never saw that. Nobody does that. So how do you guys do it? Is it just him, or is it everybody, or how is that? And then, so that's an opportunity actually to adapt a new perspective and to see, all right, now I understand. Things in this place run like that. Okay, that doesn't mean I have to do it the same way. Maybe I want. Maybe it's actually a way that suits me better and that will help me as well. So I will adapt it, or maybe I will see. Oh, understand. This is how you guys do it. I really hold on. I hold tight to my ways, but I see that that's how you do it. And because of having experienced it, and because of being able to recognize the difference right now, I know that besides the game that I've been exposed to and the rules that I know, oh, there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one, there's another one. It doesn't mean that I have to love them or I have to incorporate them, but just the fact that I know, oh, there's different levels, there's different games that are being played, that gives me, the opportunity to see, to broaden my horizon, right? To see things, from a less limited perspective, and that requires, a certain openness and humbleness, I guess.
Indeed. Agnieszka, you've been pretty quiet here.
Well, I don't know. I keep thinking about being watchful for trickery and at the same time being trusting of people. And that's one thing that trips me up, because if we like straight up say, okay, be watchful, then how can you be trusting with strangers? And I think being trusting with strangers is a lost art. Like, be
Well,
smart about it. Be smart about being trusting with strangers, but still be trusting. Because
well, I well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
9 times out of 10, people do not want to trick you. I mean, it's possible that organizations want to trick you into marketing. It's possible that, insurance wants to trick you into higher payments. But I don't really think that regular human beings, like Joe and Steve and Betty, actually want to trick you. Like maybe 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 50, depending on society, but not
But
for the
but
most part.
but it's pretty obvious that they don't understand the game because they're wearing masks, they're paying taxes, they're watching TV commercials, they're buying stuff at stores that lie to them. They're obviously not understanding the game. They don't have the street smarts that are necessary to play the game.
Or they don't have the tools, or they don't have the awareness. So you say that they don't know about the game, or they don't know how to play the game, or maybe they don't have the energy, the focus, the holistic makeup then of even being able to enter the game. Because if you again, if I put it to capoeira again, maybe you don't know anybody of the circle, so you're afraid even to step in. Maybe you have no idea how to start the game. Maybe you're not equipped at all. Maybe you have never trained before. So that's, or maybe you were led to believe that you cannot play the game, that it's not for you. So
Right.
there's many
You have
different
to
factors.
obey. One thing that Willow said the other day during the Monday class was that when people get scared, when there's a fight or flight kind of situation, their frontal lobe turns off, so they cannot analyze information. So it's only
Yeah.
the fear centers that are active, and that's how you get people who are not examining the evidence, not examining reality, but just going with it because that's what they're afraid of this week. It used to be 9/11 and the terrorist attack. It used to be, I don't know, something else, but now it's this is the apocalypse of the year, and next year we're gonna have a new apocalypse, and it'll play on your fears just the same
That in
as it did
itself is a
last
trick,
year.
isn't it? So that in itself is a trick that is being played in order to keep us in the fight and flight mode. And like you said,
Yeah.
that has its historically and physiologically that has a place. I don't know, like if the tiger jumps out, in the bush, and you have to do what you have to do in order to save your life. But if it's over an extended period of time, then that's problematic. And if you are kept into that, for maybe even most part of our lives, then that's really a problem. And like you said, in that fight and flight state, we are not able to think and to reason, because that's what you're not supposed to do if you're in a survival mode. But if you under stress and under, oh, I don't know how to pay the rent, I don't know how to put food around, and you're continuously in that mode, then that definitely alters the way we behave, the way we think, and the way we can interact with each other, right? And the way we are being tricked and being a victim of that trick of being kept in that state.
Well, and I think everybody has their own specialty that really kind of gives them the opportunity to, when they see other people making mistakes or making bad choices, be able to communicate with them in a way that says, "Hey, hold on a second here. I care about you. I see you're potentially going to make a bad decision. You mind if I give you some advice on how this might go a better way?" Because if I'm a person that's passing by the guy that's hearing the presentation about the tire and the exchange of money, and I say, "Hold on a second, I I know you don't have any tire experience repairing stuff. Now, don't do that, and don't give him money. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Ask him like what kind of tire inner tube that is, or kind of give some qualifying questions. That's you know, if we care about each other, we care about our community, and we know the things that we know, and we're good at those things, then we can offer those things as value to other people in a way that solves other people's problems too and gives them the opportunity to learn from the experience. In so many cases, like that would be considered embarrassing to do that. And so like a lot of people now, they won't correct their friends because they don't want to be embarrassed. But that's actually good feedback. And so like creating the circumstance where the like we're not tricked into being emotionally held hostage by what we think is shameful when it's actually good information that leads to a much more trusting relationship. That's what we've got to welcome. We've got to welcome good feedback instead of uh, you know, feeling like we're being shamed by other people.
And that is really, what will lead to the benefits of being aware of trickery, of being tricked. And one of the solutions that that just stood out that you said was, ask logical questions. So that for me is like a mind thing. It's psychologically being prepared. Okay, ask some quality questions, and run some testing right there on that level. Emotionally, maybe an aspect could be of being able to read the face, the facial expression, the physical expression of somebody. Are they, is there some some lie written in the face, as Agnieszka surely would be able to tell. Are they using gestures, and are they being artificially emotional in order to flatter me or to put me into a state that I actually wasn't in before, in order to get some kind of advantage. And yeah, and then even like on a on a gut level also, to sense in your gut, is there something going on, is there something feeling wrong about going with this guy down that lane right now, is there something weird about it. And I feel the awareness and the being equipped on all of those levels, this is certainly something that would be part of my suggested solution. And the benefits of that is that you get to um, uh, work holistically, your with your entire being, and you can check, oh, what is my gut saying, what's my intuition saying, what is my heart saying, what do my emotions say, and what is my my logic my brain saying. And does then compare those three, and does it make sense? Okay, poof. And then you have like there's a processing that will incorporate all the levels of my being, that will then be able to give me some feedback, and I can run by that. And that certainly is a huge benefit of being able then to engage in the game of trickery, or to disengage from it. But I would still know it's there, but I don't have to enter it.
Well, and I think there's the opportunity that we go through every day where the strangers become friends. The people that we do business with, the people that we interact with on a daily basis, all the relationships that we could establish if we befriended people. One of the I got introduced to this when I went to Colombia. I go in a store and I say, I need this, and they go, hold on a second, who are you? And then we go through a conversation for about 15 minutes, and they get to know who I am. And now from here into eternity, I know the guy that works at this store, and I know about his family, he knows about mine, we know about each other. And through that relationship, now we have connections to other people that they know. And like, as we do that, as we become prolific in that, we do establish uh, relationships where when circumstances happen and we say, hey, hold on a second, I see you might be making a mistake here, I'd like to give you some help. And people are like, oh yeah, buddy, come on over here, tell me about this, because I don't know. I was a little bit confused. Thanks for being here. Let me help you. Help me, please. And now it's a different world, because instead of us relying on the television and the promotion and the packaging and all the things that we think we trust, we actually like trust people that we know, because we know we can trust them. That, I think, is the greatest benefit, is we actually live through what I believe is our true human nature, which is to connect with other people and be social animals and be part of a tribe that helps each other, take care of each other.
Another level of another benefit from being aware and knowing about the trickery and potential cunningness that is going on is the fact that you then can really withdraw from it, right? If I step in the capoeira hall, nobody forced me to step in there and to shake somebody's hand and to go play. And if I feel some kind of vibe or some kind of energy that is just not mine, or I feel it's going somewhere where I don't want to go, or it's just not my day, or whatever, I always have the right to go back and say, hey, shake my hand, and to maybe tomorrow again, or it's I can end the game. But if you're being drawn or born into or educated into a rigged game, and a game that is full of tricksters, or a few tricksters that are playing the masses and are keeping them in a certain place where they're not even aware of how they're being tricked, and you don't know that you're being tricked, how are you going to end that game? How are you going to step out of it? You can't, because
Yeah.
eventually, if you don't have that awareness, if you don't, you know, gather the resources that you have, and step into who you really are, then you don't even feel that you have the power to say, hey, stop, no, hold on. And then, of course, having the consciousness, having the power, and having the resources of turning it around, just like you said, you can build relationships. I can say, hold on, let's go around the world, let's take a minute, and we restart the game and we play it again, and you'll be able to play it from a whole different place. So you'll be
Yep.
able to express yourself, and you'll be able to play. You actually play. You're not being played, and then it gets interesting. And we have a comment right here
Indeed.
from Colleen. I think for a lot of people, it's difficult to determine if it's their guts speaking or just the fear-based mind. That makes it hard to tell if there could be a real threat or just internal prejudice.
Yep.
Yeah, the
But
gut feeling. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
well, I was just going to say, I think there's an opportunity to be aware of a much greater opportunity that is true to our nature, through understanding like how to build trust and how to create good relationships and how to be proactive about building the network of people around you that delivers the value that you need, and just being humble to understanding that we know some things but we don't know everything, and we're going to need other people to help us to get through our lives. And if we humble ourselves to their knowledge and their feedback, and their information that they can provide us, we can get much better choices than what we've got today. Because what we've got today, what we think is trustworthy isn't, and uh, what we think is untrustworthy is just our inability to be proactive in befriending other people and creating good relationships that lead to uh, defeating trickery.
Agreed.
Anybody got anything else?
I think we're out of time.
Okie dokie.
We'll
Well,
be back next week.
Yes, and maybe the whole, well, in response to the question about the gut, that is maybe that can be even a topic for a week. To intuition, how to train that, because it can something that we can train our intuition like with little exercises every day, and certainly some are more in tune with that and others are not, and yes, so I think that's a huge topic for itself, and it's certainly more difficult for some than for others, but I feel strongly about that. All of us have it, and there's some really interesting research going on. It's called. That's why I said earlier, brain, because I was talking about this brain, and there's something, the belly or the gut brain, where now officially science seems to confirm something that people have supposedly for thousands of years even been aware of. That there's actually more nerve endings in the gut than even in our brain, and so there's much talk about that the actual decisions that we make, that we think we make rationally in our head, are actually being made in our gut before they even reach the brain, and then our mind is actually just filtering and putting it into perspective, but the actual decision is being made in the belly, whether we go left or right, or whether we trust or we don't trust, before we even think about it. And Colleen is saying, yup, it's something you have to learn how to train, and learn when to listen. Yeah. And the best thing to learn is to listen to ourselves, right? So because that's really what I feel it is. It's to learn to listen to our own gut, to learn to listen to, and to identify those signs as well. Somebody might, experience a little heartbeat, somebody else gets certain pictures or certain thoughts, but I feel that's a whole topic for itself, which we can attack it some.
Maybe we should talk about intuition next week.
Yeah, let's see.
We
But
can.
We shall
in
tell
the
you on Monday.
meantime, if you're confused, yeah, we'll talk about it on Monday. But in the meantime, if you're confused, you can always reach out to a small select group of trusted people who can steer you right and tell you no, whatever new information you've come across that makes you feel confused or uncomfortable with it, there's always your inner circle that can help you out, right?
Maybe. I don't know. How many people do you trust?
Many,
You see, I say that
most of them.
I say that to finish off, which is cutting through again. So, what about trusting that whoever comes at you and whoever he's gonna con you or trick you or not is only going to do that or not do that because it's according to I'm not gonna say anyway, because it's according it is supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen as it is. So you can trust that whether he's going to trick you or whether he's not going to trick you, that's what's supposed to happen, and you're going to accept whatever happens, and you're going to have trust in that whatever happens is meant to happen for a reason. And then you can ask, this is actually interesting. I wonder what the reason. I wonder why she came up in my life right now and did this and that to me. Is there something I can learn from it? How can I grow? How can I build a relationship with it? And then it becomes interesting. And it's not always, oh my God, why did he do this? Why did she do it? But it's like, oh wow, that's actually interesting. You start to ask quality questions and you start to see it from a different perspective and kind of open up.
Well, I think part of being the street smart, street wise individual, you've got to start out being the mark. And that is really kind of the motivation that takes people from being the mark to being the street wise, is through that. And so, yeah, I think there's a reason for everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean you've got to be the fool forever. Just because you were fooled once doesn't mean you need to be fooled over and over again.
And it also doesn't mean that you have to be the one that's looking for mean, wicked things to come at you and prepared with all kind of tricks in order to pay back and to get even away. It does, to be street smart and streetwise, to me, or how I interpret it, how I take it now, is not to let my own goodwill and my being seated and rooted in love being compromised by that, because it doesn't mean that somebody else is acting on a cunning level, on a tricking level, even whether it's like really bad or not even that bad. But that doesn't mean that I have to be drawn into that energy. I can maintain my posture and be seated within my own chosen good way, or within a way that is benevolent to each and everyone, whether they come with ill intent or not. And I can be seated in that, knowing and being street mad. I don't have to go to the level where also look how to trick, and so, just because I know that tricks are being played and can be played.
Okay, we've got to go. It's time to go. Our hour is up.
To go. Thanks, guys.
Interesting topic. Yeah, thank you all for your time and attention.
Yes.
Hope this was useful for you.
Thank you for your comments and feedback, Colleen. I'm looking forward to talk to you again on Monday, everybody, for our next exciting topic.
Play the outro. Let's say goodbye.